Hello and welcome to We Used to Be Journos, the podcast where two media insiders break down broken news. I'm Jan Fran, and who are you?
I am Antoinette Lattouf, and I am also, with you, helping teenagers make money.
How are we doing that?
Okay, so a parent got in touch with us and she said she was dying to catch up on our latest podcast. And the only way to do it was in the car with the school kids. And the way that she got them to agree to listen and not complain is that she would give them $1 for every swear word they heard. And so she said,
dear.
from the last episode, her son made $13.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was like, I didn't realise we swore that much.
That's probably me.
I think that was a particularly sweary episode about Iran a couple of episodes back. So we are inadvertently helping young people make money and be media literate.
Well,
we're essentially employing teenagers.
We're a public service. And you're welcome, young man. And I hope that you continue to listen to this podcast in the car with either of your parents.
Yeah, very, very good. The other thing that we heard from an Edirati member, Alexette, reached out to us and forwarded a YouGov poll that he was part of. And despite the name of YouGov, it sounds very governmental and official, right?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
it's not.
No.
It's an international internet-based market research company. And he wanted to put on our radar that this particular poll was asking about you and I.
Okay.
You and I among some other media personalities.
What did it ask?
It had a drop-down menu of about 10 media personalities, and then you were asked to describe or click on whether you trust them, whether you somewhat distrust them, or like 6 variations of how you feel about them. And so he was at pains to point out that he said that he trusted you a lot and trusted me a lot, but then the follow-up question was just about me. Thinking about Antoinette Lattouf, respond to the following statements. I would miss this person if they did not post any content, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And then went on to ask, and if Antoinette used AI, how would you feel about, like, would your trust change if Antoinette was to use AI? And then again, strongly decrease trust, strongly increased trust. And he just wanted to put it on our radar. He's like, I answered for Jan, I answered for you. There was also Abby Chatfield, Kyle Stefanovic. And so we don't know who commissioned this research.
Or to what end is what I'm more curious
about.
So
I am waiting for the article in The Australian. 76% of Australians wouldn't trust or don't trust Antoinette Lattouf. Like, who did this and why are we involved?
Majority of Australians would not miss Antoinette Lattouf if she stopped posting online.
I think it's Sky. I think Sky News has commissioned this.
All right. Well, listen, parking this here for both ourselves and our Edirati to just keep eyes and ears to the ground.
Yes.
Eyes to the ground? Sure.
Ear to the ground. I mean, you could put your eyes to the ground, but that'd be a bit weird.
Yeah, that'd be a bit weird. Ears to the ground and just see where this one pops up.
Okay.
What is on the show?
Okay.
Today.
Instead of a no, I actually have a I don't know. And that is about Louis Theroux's Netflix doco, Inside the Manosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy it, kinda. Did it make me gag? Yeah, kinda. Did I feel empathy? Yes.
Okay, make you gag. I'm interested to flesh that one out.
Yeah,
Yep.
but did it achieve anything positive or constructive? And I think the jury is out there. So more on that.
Okay, I have a no, and it goes to the BBC because the BBC is determined to make fetch happen, baby. Oh. That is I knew you wouldn't get that. I fucking knew it.
Are you talking about a dog getting a ball?
No, I'm talking about a Mean Girls reference from Gretchen Wiener, who is always trying to make fetch happen.
Okay.
And it's just not happening. Like, let it go, Gretchen. Let it go, the BBC.
Oh, okay.
Because they're trying, in my view, to do a very ridiculous hit piece on the Green Party leader, Zack Polanski. Because 13 years ago, he made comments that hypnotherapy can enlarge women's breasts. This is all going to make sense at some point when I unpack this, but that is my no.
Okay, and our big chat in the second half of the show is on Lebanon. Yes, we are both Lebanese Australians. Yes, we would love to be, or perhaps not to have to do this segment or dedicate half of the show to it. We'd love to feel that we don't have to do the heavy lifting or amplifying the stories or amplifying the humanity and the destruction and the death toll.
No one else is. So
yeah,
here we are.
Here we are. 8 kids a day are being killed in Lebanon, about 1 million displaced. Medics are being killed as well. And we want to look at the Australian coverage, the fact that no correspondents have been in Lebanon for the past 2 weeks. And what else we're noting from our media colleagues in Australia and why we think the coverage has been as muted as it has been.
Mm-hmm. And your yes, kind of antithesis to that a little bit. If you're not finding coverage in Australia, you could probably find it elsewhere.
Yeah, so I have 2 women who live in Lebanon who I've been following. One is a British Lebanese journalist who's got a great substack, and another is a photojournalist who's American who lives in South Beirut.
Mm-hmm.
My yes goes to some of the really great work they're doing.
Okay, and I do also have a yes, a quick one that goes to the Australian Communications and Media Authority, aka ACMA, because boy, oh boy, have they handed down a strong ruling just this week, but a few days ago, about Kyle and Jackie O. And
they found a spine or a single vertebra.
They did find it.
Yes.
One minor issue, though. Minor. Might be a bit late.
Yeah.
Bit late for that ACMA, but I'm going to tell you what it is that's coming up later in the show as well. And also, just while I have all of you, a very big thank you to everybody who tuned in for Only Fran yet again. It does seem that you are quite liking that segment. So that's making me feel really good and also really stressed that I now have to do it every week. Oh, fuck. But thank you so much for engaging with all of the work that we do. And really your support is what makes it possible. I wasn't intending on doing a plug. Thank you. You do it. You do the
Please
plug.
subscribe. Help support us. There are a few other people who've been like, oh, is Antoinette going to do a spin-off show? Maybe, probably, could be. Give us your money and we can make more content.
There's got to be a more diplomatic way of saying that, but that is it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Anyway, we love you either way. All right, before we get to the there's a lot going on.
So much.
Before we get to the show, there's a bit of a please explain here, which is actually I want someone to explain to me what is happening.
Okay, I'm going to try and help you out here,
I'm
Jan.
unclear. Okay,
and this is to do with wanted war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. Is he dead? Is he dead?
Bum, bum, bum.
Because there is a lot of claims and counterclaims and conspiracy theories and 2 very distrustful governments asking us to trust them.
Okay, so for those that have not been following this story at all, there was a claim that originated from an Iranian news agency called Tasnim News that suggested that Iran had killed Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yep.
Okay. So that's one thing that was kicking away. And then there was another thing with sleuths on the internet. And anytime you start a sentence with that, it's always like, oh boy, sleuths on the internet have discovered that during a press conference that Benjamin Netanyahu was allegedly giving, there was a moment in that press conference, if you paused it at exactly the right time.
But not with journalists. I don't believe that press conference was with journalists.
Oh,
I think he was just.
Oh, sorry, it was before a camera.
I think he was just making an address.
Okay, you're right. That's an important point.
Very important
because
point, yes.
in that moment, if you pause the address at a particular point, you might notice that Benjamin Netanyahu has 6 fingers.
Yes.
Okay, and
you've looked at that picture closely?
I mean, I've looked. It's a video, and the Independent had it, and that's where I went and saw it. And yeah, the bit that they featured had, if you looked closely, maybe it does look like it had 6 fingers, but also it could have been a little bit of a blur.
Yes.
Point is, both of these things are floating around the internet and getting a lot of people riled up about what's going on.
So Netanyahu decided that the way I would show everybody that I'm alive and also show people that I have 5 fingers, not 6, is to visit a coffee shop. He's speaking in Hebrew. He picks up a coffee. It's very full. He shows his hands. I have 5 fingers. He shows both. And he puts it in a pocket, right? And so then all the headlines across the world were like, he sips the coffee, makes light of the fact that he is not dead. Then a whole bunch of AI sleuths on the internet, again, a sentence that should elicit
raise some alarm bells.
A bit of alarm bells. They start to debunk the video and they're like, well, I can tell it's AI because when he picks the coffee cup up, it's very, very full on the bench. When he picks it up, it doesn't slosh around. And then when he puts his hand in his pocket, it says X, Y, and Z. I am not an AI expert. I do not know these things. What I do know is that people started to make videos of other world leaders to show just how easy it is to replicate.
In the same cafe, drinking the same coffee.
Yes, including the deceased Supreme Leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, there's a video of him also sipping a coffee in the same coffee shop. And then I was like, maybe the Ayatollah's not dead. Maybe he's in Jerusalem.
Just drinking a soy latte. Oh, God.
And then there was a video of Macron.
Doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing. And then also showing their 5 fingers. So I'm like.
Look, anyway, we don't have the definitive answer as to who is dead and who is alive. But I think what needs to happen is that if old mate's alive, he needs to appear before a group of journalists and do a press conference, and that will settle that. Because right now, I don't think he's done that, but he has been just with his own team putting out content.
And lots of outlets, BBC, Reuters, they've all like, here's what we know. And Reuters was like, we looked at the Instagram account of the coffee shop in Jerusalem. They have a photograph. I mean, like I could go to the coffee shop and say, hey, babes, post this, and then I'm going to put this video out. The fact that it has to be verified by a journalist. He has to appear at a cabinet meeting with other people have to cite him. So at the moment, I'm not saying he's dead, but I'm not saying he's alive.
Okay. Well, by the time you're listening to this, some new information might have popped up, however you feel.
I don't. I mean, can I just say how I feel?
Please.
I don't want him to be dead. Like, I don't know. I would rather him face charges before the World Court and face the consequences for his genocidal, psychopathic, war criminal, maniac behaviour.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, enough about that.
Okay.
Let's go to my no, which is, I think, very funny. It goes to the BBC for its flop attempt to smear a politician. This is a report about the Green Party leader, Zack Polanski. So in the UK, the Greens are doing quite well. And this report I thought was really clutching at straws. So here's the background. Before he entered politics, Zack Polanski was a hypnotherapist.
Okay.
All right, that's just what he did. Now, this is a sort of type of, it's psychological therapy and it uses hypnosis. So they're two different things. In 2013, he was approached by a journalist from the Sun newspaper.
A tabloid newspaper
there in the UK, to see if a hypnotherapy session could make her breasts bigger. Now, I don't know why this was particularly the angle of the piece.
I mean, I would click on that article.
Sure.
It's so ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It'd get my attention.
And, you know, all media outlets do these kind of like fluffy lifestyle pieces where they embed a journalist and, you know, they got to do all these ridiculous things. So they did that in 2013 and the piece was called Titnotized. Don't encourage these people. Stop laughing.
I'm sorry.
Stop now.
Sorry, I'm so unimpressed. Let's go back to smearing politicians.
Can you really think your boobs bigger? That was the title of the piece. I asked you to read it because you had no idea about this story.
No, I didn't.
You did read the piece, but like, how would you describe it straight?
Okay, if I was to describe it, it was actually it approached the whole process quite seriously. I didn't think it was taking the mickey. This journalist went and had a session, asked about the kind of the theoretical basis of this, got a whole bunch of tools for what to do, and some of it centered around the fact visualization. You have to change the way you feel about your body, and then maybe just like put your shoulders back, right? 2 things.
A little something, yeah.
I didn't think she wasn't making fun of it, and she went home and she did it, and she thinks that maybe her boobs do appear bigger because she changed the way she thought about her body.
That's generally the piece.
But it was pretty straight. Like it wasn't wacky, but it wasn't also making fun of the whole idea.
Yeah,
that's how I read it.
There's a little tongue-in-cheek element. Anyway, they're doing something a bit left of center.
Yeah.
At the end of the article, the journalist says, oh, by the way, Zack Polanski is the hypnotherapist in this, obviously, and he's featured and his quotes are featured and, you know, there's descriptions of him and a photo of him and whatnot. At the end of the article, the journalist says, I measure my bust after 3 days. I've grown from a 32-inch chest to a 34-inch. 3 days later, my chest measures 35 inches. Another 3 days and I'm 36 inches. So has it worked? I believe so. I also feel calmer and happier. Okay, that was a conclusion from the journalist of this piece in 2013. Now, presumably, no one has thought about this article for well over a decade, okay, until Zack Polanski becomes the leader of the Green Party. And when he becomes the leader of the Green Party in 2025, The Sun which is a newspaper that initially did the piece, comes out with an article titled "Former Hypnotherapist Who Claimed He Could Enlarge Breasts with Mind is Elected Green Party Leader."
Wasn't it the reporter who said it worked?
Was that included in the Sun piece?
Oh, no.
No,
Right.
it certainly wasn't. And did he ever claim that he could enlarge breasts with his mind? I don't believe he did. Not in the
No.
original piece and not in that follow-up Sun article anyway. So
That's a very Sun thing to do, though. It's a tabloid.
sure, it's a tabloid. It's pretty low. It is utterly misrepresenting him. The point is, here's where the BBC comes into it. Okay?
Fast forward to now, and he says the article that appeared in The Sun misrepresented him, and he went on the BBC the very next day to apologise. But we've been going through the BBC archives, and we can't find that apology. In fact, it seems the opposite. Days later, he went on BBC Radio Humberside and defended the idea.
No.
Oh, they got
They
him.
bloody got him. They went looking through the archives. They're like,
Zack Polanski said that he apologised, but we went and had a look and he didn't apologise.
in fact, he's doubled down. And would you like to know the bit that the BBC included in their story about Zack Polanski defending the idea?
Sure.
This is what he said.
I believe that it can happen in theory, and I think it's definitely worth investing the time of evidence and research into hypnosis generally.
He said,
Research and evidence.
the egregious bit of him doubling down was him saying, I think it can happen in theory, and I think it's worth investing the time of research and evidence into hypnosis. And the interview that they claimed that he gave, where he defended the idea, there's actually a lot more to it than that. I just want to play you a little bit of that interview so that you can just get a sense of exactly what is happening here. This was 6 days after the article came out in 2013. Zack Polanski went on BBC radio, and this is what he said.
Do you actually believe it yourself?
I think it's really interesting. When she first contacted me.
No, that wasn't the answer to the question.
Oh, sure, but the answer was coming. In terms of what I believe in lots of things, and until I see evidence of something entirely to the contrary, it seems
Well, I'll ask the
sensible to me
question
to-
again. Do you believe it can happen or not?
I believe that it can happen in theory, and I think it's definitely worth investing the time of evidence and research into hypnosis generally. What I think is even more important, though, actually, is that since that article's come out, I've had a lot of emails and inquiries about body image and confidence generally.
Yes, of course you have, because there's so many people that either want to be bigger or smaller. So those people are desperate, so they come to hypnotherapists. It's the same for giving up cigarette smoking and flying in airplanes and everything. That doesn't mean to say that it's right. People are vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think people are vulnerable, which is important. So we make a distinction between hypnotherapy and hypnosis. And actually, at the moment, I'm not charging people for breast enhancement. That's just
I'm pleased to hear that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did you find a smoking gun in any of that?
There isn't a smoking gun, but I understand the BBC interviewer at the time interrogating whether this is just going to exploit women's body image issues and possibly profit off another way to profit off women feeling bad about
but
themselves.
this idea that's like,
valid.
Zack Polanski made these outrageous comments and said that he apologized, but he didn't apologize.
Yeah.
And here we are. We've caught him in
Yeah.
his non-apology where he actually defended the idea. And that to me just sounds like somebody that's like, hey, look, this might be a thing. We've got some theory about it. I think there's probably more research and evidence that's warranted going into it, etc.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is actually happening here? And I think what was telling is that the BBC had an article that accompanied this video.
Comprehensive coverage.
Comprehensive coverage, real holistic coverage. And the article included this quote: Zack Polanski's ego might have got bigger, but nothing else has. It's now clear that his pretense to have been misrepresented over his breast enlargement hypnosis scam was absolute nonsense. He got called out years later. Who said that? Any guesses?
The BBC?
An anonymous Labour source. Oh no, an anonymous Labour source slagging off the leader of the Green Party, whose party won a very pivotal election but weeks ago in a rather, what was strongly a Labour-held seat. Not anymore. And how weird that the BBC has come out with this report quoting an anonymous Labour source about
And this strange I got you moment.
in this strange, I told you, they're trying to make fetch happen.
Okay, now I kind of
Now
understand
you
what
get
that
it?
means.
Stop trying to make fetch happen, babe.
Okay.
Surely there's bigger fish to fry here.
Your
You know
cool
what I mean?
popular culture references are dead to me and lost on me. Like they don't.
Okay, so this is a reference from like 20 years ago, but
Okay.
thank you for saying it was cool. I appreciate that. And that is my note.
Okay, so my no is, again, more of an I don't know. But before I proceed, I do want to put it out there that, bit of a spoiler alert, I am going to be talking about Louis Theroux's documentary Inside the Manosphere that is on Netflix, and lots of people have lots of opinions. And yeah, I guess I'm still forming mine. It's not a yes, it's not a no, but I guess it's gotten me talking and wanting to know more.
Oh, it's a let's explore.
Oh my God. Let's explore.
Let's explore.
So
That's
we'll just
great. We're going to
explain.
use that.
We're going to explore.
Yep. Okay. Good.
But before we dive in, Jan, probably explain what the manosphere is, because it can be pretty broad. It has a very sinister end, but it's not all sinister.
It's sort of just kind of that section of the internet where it's a lot of men, predominantly all men, talking about all things like health, fitness, relationships, crypto. Ice baths feature in the manosphere heavily.
Yes.
Probably not the extreme end, but it's men saying, they can make your lifestyle as a man better.
Yeah, reclaiming masculinity
Reclaiming
as well.
masculinity is undertones to that. But there are some very extreme edges of the manosphere that are just straight out sexist, misogynist, racist, homophobic, all of it. And I think that's the section, it is the section that Louis Theroux explores in this particular documentary.
And here is just a little part of the trailer.
I normally train a little bit earlier in the day. I like to start my day off working out,
Who are
doing
you
hard
talking
things.
to?
What, do I not talk to them? Don't talk to him. Talk to you.
We're not on social media now. What would you say is the message?
I coach boys how to make money,
Wow, this is a nice spot.
how to be outside the system.
Flashy
How
cars,
to be proper
cigars,
guys.
weight
Shut up,
training.
Another.
Shut
Did
up
you
or
see
nada.
me that way? Did you look at my arms?
The stature's not saying too much.
I was entering the manosphere.
So when he enters the manosphere, this is what you see: a handful of American and English influencers with huge followings online. They're muscly, driving fast cars, have hot chicks all around them, and they sell subscriptions essentially to wealth management services, fitness. They're selling this
Apps
idea
of some kind.
They're all selling an idea that you could be. It's so easy. You get out of the matrix, you be a man, and this is what you do. This is what men are meant to do.
Yeah.
I'll have to say I don't spend a huge amount of time following any of these guys. Actually, I didn't know any of them before. I knew that some of these gross views existed. I didn't quite know the extremity and the pride in which they shared their particularly misogynistic views. Like there was one, he had his girlfriend come over and she just goes to clean the room. And he referred to a flatmate. Another one referred to a flatmate as the human dishwasher. One is in a marriage and he talked about how he has like one-way monogamy. Like she's monogamous, but I'm not. The other guy said that he wanted to, when he gets married, have more than one wife. One guy live streamed a blowjob. All apparently the women in their orbit agreed to this as part of their relationship. When Louis Theroux tried to press them, they sometimes sheepishly tried to backtrack. Some backed it. I guess I didn't understand the extent of the misogyny. And I think the biggest thing was a lot of these influencers were being recorded, or they would live stream certain bits. And so they were getting more clout, more clicks, presumably more money, more followers. And I just wondered if this gave them a certain amount of legitimacy amongst those who already think that you can't trust the mainstream. You can't trust the big guys. They're out to get us. They don't like how profitable and how wonderful we are. And it just kind of gave them, maximum exposure.
Yeah, and I think they loved it. Well, they did, because one of them afterwards was raving about how much he pissed off the people of Britain and how much he loves pissing off people. And it's like I think they're going to use all of the added exposure to their advantage. They don't really care.
Yeah,
So my question is, to what end are we knowing and seeing and understanding all of that? To what end is this raising awareness?
Yeah. And look, I think what was missing, because yes, it showed like gross, hypocrite, not to be believed or whatever. Like it showed who they were, which presumably a Google search probably could have showed who they were. But what was missing, I think, was the impact on women. And also, we'll get to it in a moment, how to support young men who idolise these guys. There was a good review in the UK's Telegraph. It said it's truly grim stuff, but it is never clear whether Theroux's detached style is the right way of approaching the horrors of the manosphere. The documentary needs more anger and surely more female input. You heard from a girlfriend here, a producer there, and you never really fully understood that these aren't just, the impact isn't just potentially the girlfriends they have.
No, it's women all around the world, either in real life or on the internet, who are just trying to exist in ways that this particular cohort of people doesn't like or feels like they can profit off.
Yeah, and the UK's largest domestic abuse charity came out and put out a statement on its website saying that the Manosphere is directly connected to real-world violence against women and that some parts of the online space actively encourage it. And so it's more than... Like it just that was really lacking, and it has dangerous real world impacts.
Yeah, I felt the emphasis was just on the wrong group, and I felt like this one could have benefited a lot more if he had actually just spent more time with the men impacted by the manosphere, rather than the men doing the impacting.
You got like that little snippet of that guy.
Snippet of it. There was a guy in there who, you know, whose brother had, again, this is spoilers, his brother had taken his own life. He was homeless for a while. And he's like, I just got to get out of that bad head mentality. I just got to get into a winning mentality. And it's like, oh man, like there's something going on here for you that I think is maybe being exploited by people who don't give a fuck about you, you know? What's his story? Like what's happening there? I found that much more interesting.
Yeah, and the teenagers who ran up on the street on one night and recognized, we love you. I mean, they did also yell out, fuck women, which a huge concern about, you know, why they have those views at such a young age. What Louis Theroux did do was show that almost all of the men who were these influencers and strong and powerful and really masculine, almost all had absent fathers. Some grew up with a lot of violence. And so, like, I did feel an amount of empathy I didn't expect to feel for them. But, like, to your point, I wanted to know, well, what about their young followers who are also disenfranchised, who also have a missing father figure?
I mean, I'll tell you who I thought of the first minute the show came on is my son. Like I felt I was more impacted by the show, not as a woman, because materially, and I know it's different for everyone, but I'm not in any kind of orbit with men who are like that. They don't really materially impact my life. They certainly have a detrimental impact on society for sure, but I have a son. And there was a bit in the doco where they flash back to photos of these guys when they were 4 years old. I have a 4-year-old and I think that's my boy. Like, is my boy going to go down this road?
Yeah.
How do I try and stop him? And he's got a wonderful role model in his father. So that's already a good thing. But like, how do I make sure that my boy doesn't end up that?
Yeah. It's interesting. That was your takeaway. I thought about my nephews. I have 5 nephews aged between 17 and 22. And certain words that I heard from these Manosphere guys, like get out of the matrix and red pill and all these other things that they'd said, I was like, oh, that's where they get those phrases from. And it usually just like riles me up because they'll be like, oh, auntie, you wouldn't know. You're just so stuck in the matrix and you're just a feminist and blah, blah, blah. And it got me thinking about them. I'm like,
have you even seen the Matrix, you little bastard? Is that what you say?
They're saying all of these things.
Movie.
They're saying, so I started to think about them and I was like, oh, like they're adopting this terminology. How seriously should I take it all? And so what I did do then was reach out to the Man Cave. So the Man Cave is Australia's leading mental health charity focused on men. And I asked, like, after you watch this, after you have a conversation, it might shock you, it might disturb you, it might just reiterate what you already know. What then? What is the next step? Because a lot of people are like, well, like, how do we help these young men? And this is what they shared.
Hey, it's Daniel here, Head of Impact from the Man Cave. In terms of responding to the Manosphere, you might have a teenage boy who's in front of you who's saying this stuff. What they've been trained to do is to get a reaction out of you. That's what they're prepared for. That's what they're expecting. That's what the
that checks out. My nephews
have shown in all of their interactions. The way to disarm this stuff is actually through being non-reactive and curious. You see Louis do it so well in the documentary. When we can just stay in our center and stay curious and seek to understand their perspective and their views, it shifts this from being a game that's trying to get a reaction and actually has them think about how they relate to the words that they're saying and they're sharing. And that's where we can find an access point to be able to have a much more powerful and authentic and honest conversation.
That's interesting.
About this stuff.
Can you stop that for a second? I appreciate that. And I understand where they're coming from. My issue is that what that requires is a two-sided good faith conversation. And even if you remain open and curious, they might not be. So you might be talking to a member of the Manosphere and you're trying genuinely to engage with them and to open your mind up and to ask them questions. They have no interest in changing. So what happens when you are faced with someone who actually doesn't give a fuck about your curiosity at all?
Well, you know what? Let me try this on my nephews and report back.
Okay.
I'm gonna try.
That's a good.
Because usually I'm like, shut up, Wade, or why are you saying that, or stop listening to Andrew Tate, or whatever. And then we end up getting into this like cheeky spar with each other where none of us are being that serious, but none of us are actually legitimately engaging.
It's also like a great degree of labor to legitimately engage with people. I'm just saying.
I know,
but
I love these kids, so I will. If it was some stranger on the internet, no.
Sure.
Anyway, let's continue.
Okay.
If you're a parent who hasn't been hearing this stuff yet and you have a young man in your life,
that's you.
That's me.
Try and take a proactive approach. Ask them about the pressures that they're feeling to succeed in their life. Our research shows that 1 in 2 teenage boys are feeling that pressure to succeed. And 1 in 2 teenage boys say that how they are actually feeling about themselves is based on how they perform. This is ubiquitous, this performance pressure. So ask them if they're feeling it. Ask them what it's like. Ask them if they've spoken to anyone about it. And ask them whether they feel supported.
Okay.
There's some good tips.
Yeah, I'm picking up what he's putting down there, especially the idea of being proactive. Don't wait until this happens and then you have to defend against it because you're going to be on the defense. You're going to be on the back foot, but be actually proactive. I mean, I don't have a teenager. He's 4, but I imagine that would resonate with a lot of parents.
And I think, and be curious and try and find out what young men are feeling and validate it. Because I don't know, it's frightening if it spirals out of control. Look, it got us thinking. It got us asking questions.
It got us exploring.
It's incomplete and perhaps the focus was misguided. But I'm curious and I'm going to go and chat to my nephews.
Yes, you're going to do an experiment.
Stop.
On your nephews to see.
They're going to be thrilled as well.
They're going to be, yes. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So that is the exploration. On to our big chat. This week we're going to talk about Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of reasons that we're talking about Lebanon. But first, I just want to give everybody an indication of exactly what is happening in Lebanon because I don't think we're quite getting it from the Australian media, certainly not the scale. So in the past fortnight, 826 Lebanese people have been killed in Israeli strikes. I just want to reiterate that's in 2 weeks. This includes 12 medics that were killed in an Israeli strike on a health centre in southern Lebanon. Yeah, that happened at the weekend.
And there's a total of 31. The 12 were in one hit, but there's 31 medics in total.
Mm-hmm. The Israeli military said 2 of its soldiers were killed in southern Lebanon as well. And at the time of recording, the euphemisms abound about what is essentially invasion of Lebanon.
Yep.
However you want to call it, ground campaign.
Incursion.
Whoopsie.
Yeah. Long stroll.
Long
Sunday
stroll across the border.
Yeah.
Sent troops. Troops were just sent across the border. And there's been some reporting from the United Nations as well.
Yes, that 8 Lebanese children are being killed each day. Lebanese authorities say close to 1 million people have been displaced. Those healthcare worker attacks are increasing. And what was strangely missing from headlines, despite the fact that it came out by Human Rights Watch a week ago, that the Israeli military unlawfully used white phosphorus munitions over homes in South Lebanon, saying the incendiary effects of white phosphorus can cause death or cruel injuries that result in lifelong suffering.
Mm-hmm.
It's a war crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. Its impacts are devastating. And again,
I only saw it online.
I saw it overseas and I saw it on Human Rights Watch's page.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you don't know about any of this, we don't really blame you, but that is what's going on. The US-Israeli-led strikes on Iran obviously are the big news. Lebanon is not front and centre. And so we're going to look at the way that the Australian media has covered or not covered Lebanon. We're going to take a look at some of the language used and which stories/suffering is deemed important, and mainly what that has to do with access journalism and where it is that journalists are deployed.
Yeah. Also probably important to point out, there is a large Lebanese diaspora in Australia. It's the largest Arab diaspora in Australia. At least 250,000 Australians have Lebanese ancestry. That's either them being born overseas or one parent born overseas. So that doesn't capture necessarily third generation Lebanese. And it's the 8th most common country of birth for people living in New South Wales. And the biggest population is Western Sydney. Sydney and Melbourne, but predominantly Sydney. We're obviously part of that diaspora. We have family in Lebanon, in Beirut, and also in North Lebanon. We have family who are Australian who are trying to get back. So this is obviously, particularly painful and difficult, not just to experience, but to also witness the coverage.
And I guess what spurred us on to talk about this particularly this week, even though it's been front of mind for the last few weeks, certainly, was that we received an email, and it was a very lovely email by a member of the Ederati, Carol Ett, just randomly dropped in our inbox, and I thought that it was worth sharing with some of you bits of the email because it really did move us. Carol Ett writes, "Hi Jan and Antoinette. I thought I'd reach out to express my love to you both. It's no small thing to watch your country, whether as a migrant or a second or third generation, bombed. You'll have relatives there, and the absolute fucking outrage that the Australian government is helping the country currently killing civilians where your culture, history and extended family resides." And then she goes on to say, "I'm thinking of you," which really meant a lot to hear, to be honest. She says, "I'm so angry. I'm angry at the broader community for ignoring your pain and sorrow." And she says, "Keep talking, keep making sure that you tell everyone you're Lebanese. I want Australians to remember who they are helping bomb and destroy. You are both wonderful, and remember that you are loved here in Australia by many people outside the Lebanese community, supporting you from afar." And thank you so much for that email, Carolette. It really does mean a lot. And I think that last bit there just really landed for me because we have been processing the kind of very tepid media coverage, if not silence, about a lot of the specific atrocities that have been happening in Lebanon.
Which doesn't feel very much like love or support.
No, exactly. So to read that, you're like, oh, that's actually a really nice reminder.
Yeah, it's a nice reminder to see that some people see our humanity, even if our peers don't.
Yeah.
And, I have relatives in Lebanon. We both have a relative, an elderly aunt relative in Beirut. One is my husband's auntie. She's had leaflets dropped on her house to leave her apartment. She doesn't want to go. She's in her late 70s. She's worried about all the people that are displaced if squatters will come into her home, which she has empathy for. She's like, but there are so many people sleeping on the streets and in schools and in mosques and in churches. And despite us telling her, go north, go stay with these people elsewhere, she has told us that she would rather die, that she is dying slowly every day, that she is up every night, she can't sleep because of the sound of the bombs, because of the smell of the smoke, and that she has resigned, that she would rather die in her home than flee and be homeless or be displaced or have. And so it's difficult for us on the other side of the world to hear that and be like, what do you mean you're just going to accept that you're going to die?
Yeah.
But we aren't in a position to tell people how to feel or how to act, no matter how much we try. Yeah. We also have relatives who are trying to get flights back home they can't get flights back.
I think the thing that people don't really understand about Lebanon is that it's a tiny country, and remittance income, which is Lebanese living and working abroad, is a massive part of the economy. And so when you have 1 million people or how many people displaced, that has an impact on the entire country, even if you are not specifically displaced, because there's pressure on all of the services, there's pressure on all of the schools and the amenities, exactly. And it means that a lot of the diaspora is propping up financially this displacement because people have families who've had to leave their homes, who they'll go, okay, well, we're going to send money to you because you're in this dire state, and pickle. Yeah. Pickle. Listen to that fucking language. What a pickle.
What a pickle. God, the euphemisms are creeping into your
it's a no from me
as well.
It's a no from me for Ed Media. Yeah.
And there's about 5 million people in Lebanon. And so when 1 million are displaced, that gives you an idea that 1 in 5 people are displaced.
Are fucking homeless in your country. And it's a tiny country. It's the size of it maybe is a little bit bigger than Greater Sydney, So when you have 1 million people that have had to move northwards, imagine what that looks like in a country of that size.
I did see the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. He was in Lebanon over the weekend and he gave an address. And I just want to play a little of what he said.
And today, it really breaks my heart to see the Lebanese people suffering so much. 800,000 displaced.
It's since increased.
1,500 dead. When I was High Commissioner for Refugees, I saw the generosity of the Lebanese receiving so many Syrians, so many Palestinians.
I guess what really moved me listening to that was hearing somebody talk about Lebanese people's humanity, generosity and decency, something that just seems to be missing when we talk about Lebanese people in the West. We're either a threat or we're all cobbled together as Hezbollah. Or we
a benign victim.
Yeah, and a benign victim or just how we impact petrol prices. And so I felt that was, that really moved me. It made me really sad. It made me really, really sad.
But he did say something there at the end where he said, my message is very clear, we must stop.
Yeah.
Which, it doesn't look like there's any plan to stop. Israel's made its intention pretty clear in March, early March. The Israeli finance minister and man who has been sanctioned by Australia, might I add, Bezalel Smotrich, he warned that the Dahya area, which is an area of Beirut, the area that's being heavily bombed currently, will soon look like Khan Yunis, which is a city in Gaza that has effectively been razed to the ground. So saying we plan to do in Lebanon what we did in Gaza. And normally I would say, well, that's just one minister who's not even central to the cabinet and is maybe extreme, except that his predictions of what happened in Gaza came true.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't they? We've got a bit of a template now.
They either flattened, killed or dispossessed everybody. And so, I remember when I saw that earlier in March and sharing it in WhatsApp groups, sharing it with families, people are fleeing. We're terrified that this is going to happen because they have form.
Yeah.
They have genocide. They had genocidal intent. They announced it. They did it. And so when they announce it again, I mean, it's something to be taken seriously. But it seems that only 7 News Online in Australia gave this story prominence. And it was Penny Wong condemns Israeli minister's plan to flatten Beirut like Gaza and addresses Aussies stuck in the Middle East. That's by the by. So I kept looking. I kept going around online to have a look at who else gave this the sort of prominence and attention that it deserves. It was mentioned within an ABC article, kind of like halfway into it. Certainly wasn't a headline. And then I came across 9 papers and that had a headline with Smotrich's face and started with the words, entirely unacceptable. And I was like, okay, yes, it is entirely unacceptable to kill, dispossess and flatten yet another city in another country. But then I realized that article was actually 9 months old, up the top where they have it in yellow.
Oh, yeah, this is 9 months old.
When I clicked on it. And it was actually in response to Australia's sanctions on him.
Oh, that is what is entirely unacceptable.
That is what is entirely unacceptable, according to an Israeli ambassador. So I was just like, the fact that this isn't drawing kind of attention or being a headline, like not being buried within halfway of an ABC article, I think, I don't know, slightly problematic.
That's my alarm bell, yeah.
Slightly problematic.
Yeah.
So it's been over 2 weeks now since this latest escalation, and I use those words carefully because the atrocities are ongoing in Gaza. They've never stopped, same as in the West Bank.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to talk about who broke the ceasefire first or, because people could say very easily and accurately, but Hezbollah's firing rockets into Israel.
Yes, that's true. Iran's firing into Israel.
Into Israel.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
I guess I want to draw attention to what happens when certain spotlight and resources are put where.
Right.
And at the moment, the kind of the humanity, the light is not being shone on Lebanon, in Lebanon, despite a huge amount of evidence of just how many people are displaced, how many people are killed, how many children are killed, the fact that white phosphorus has been used.
Yeah. Just the scale and the gravity of it.
The scale, the gravity is, and it's so obvious that the coverage has been missing, and we can try and give you some insights as to why.
And you might have realised that you're getting quite a lot of reporting outside of Israel, and that is because at any given point in time in the last 2 weeks, and well before, I would say, all, if not most, of our networks have been stationed ongoing in Israel.
And nowhere else.
And nowhere else.
That's the important point.
Yes, exactly. Certainly not in the sustained way that they are stationed within Israel. And so what you see is the things happening in Israel, and there are strikes, and there have been people that have been killed in Israel, civilians killed by Iranian strikes.
Yeah, I think in the first week it was about 15 killed in Israel.
So there is absolute devastation and horror happening in Israel as well, which is fucked. But
not to the same scale. Not even comparable to the same scale.
Of course, it's not to the same scale. But yes, I think it is happening.
Sure.
And so the journalists are there on the ground, and they are experiencing themselves what it is to live in a place where you're seeing rockets and missiles flying around all over the place, and the uncertainty that comes with that. So I'll give you an example. 9 is in southern Israel, and this was a cross that the 9 reporter did with Kyle Stefanovic on the Today Show, and she was seen to be dodging rocket fire.
Yeah,
she was reporting live on air.
You could see in the background there was a missile being launched.
Yes. Yeah. Interestingly, just a thing to note in that interview, his opening question, do you guess what her answer was? What did it start with?
Israel says?
Israel says.
Yeah.
Israel says. Because, of course, it's Israel says because you're in Israel.
Mm.
And that's what you're there to report, the updates of what is happening in Israel and what Israel says. But then you get pieces to camera like the one that Chris Reason did. And shout out, I have absolutely no beef with – I actually really like Chris Reason.
Same.
I
generally
really
follow
do.
His reporting and like it.
And he's actually not doing anything wrong here at all. I'm just showing you that this is the sort of stuff that we're seeing – maybe to the exclusion of others for various reasons.
Definitely to the exclusion of others, which we'll get to.
Now, what I'm doing is what thousands of Israelis will be doing across this city as well, and that's taking cover, shelter inside bomb shelters across the city.
Right. So you see Chris Reason actually himself going into the bomb shelter. And we've seen a lot of this coverage over the past
couple of years.
Exactly. Matthew Doran is the same. He's at the ABC at a funeral in Beit Shemesh.
Okay, so we're just at a cemetery here in Beit Shemesh. You can hear the end of the sirens that have just gone off there, and everyone who's been gathered here has had to seek shelter. And the advice here is that we need to hide behind a wall. We can see some interceptions.
So he is doing that piece to camera, not just as like objective reporter, but man who is actually part of what is happening, and he's there crouching down behind a wall because, of course, he is. That is the advice that has been given to them. And so what you see is you see the journo also suffering in the same way. And you're seeing Israeli suffering on multiple networks.
Yeah, you're seeing the sirens, you're seeing people in shelters, you're seeing some debris. Yes, you're seeing vox pops with Israeli people.
By virtue of all of the networks being there and nowhere else. So there's nothing that is inherently wrong with any of this reporting, but when you sort of zoom out and look at it as a whole and look at it in context of all of the other reports, if you're an Australian media consumer, well, that's the first and maybe only thing that you might see.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting that the ABC, which has Matt Doran as the Middle East correspondent, also sent Bridget Rollerson, their Europe correspondent, to Israel. So then you have 2 ABC correspondents stationed in Israel.
Yes.
And obviously we know that journalists aren't banned. Israel bans them from going into Gaza. Probably West Bank will be limited access, but not impossible. Lebanon you can go to.
Yeah.
Iran, also very difficult. I think from my understanding, there's only 1 or 2 Western journalists in Iran.
Yes.
But I'm like, so now you have 2 perspectives from our public broadcaster from Israel on the experience of Israel, where they are largely well, they're causing mass casualties and mass damage with the support of the United States.
I did reach out to the ABC, and to be fair to them, and that was like my question, because I was like, why don't you have a correspondent in Beirut? I don't understand.
Because I've seen CNN there, BBC there, other journos are there.
There are international journos there for sure. And they said that they were deploying Matt Doran, and they were getting an extra producer for him and the camo over to Beirut. So they said that he's now been deployed. He was in Jordan previously as well, so he has been outside of Israel, and is now being deployed to Beirut. I mean, arguably, it's
It's more than 2 weeks in now.
It's more than 2 weeks in.
2 weeks in now.
Sure. SBS, interestingly, does not have a correspondent in Beirut, but they did say their Europe correspondent has been in Israel since the current conflict began. And it's like, yes, no, we know that.
We know that. We've seen.
But on the question of like, why do you not have a correspondent in Beirut? When deciding on deployments to conflict zones, we consider our ability to appropriately resource the deployment of staff to the region, as well as the potential safety risks, which I'm not sure. I mean, if you deploy someone to Israel, you should be able to deploy them, I don't know, 500 kilometers north.
Yeah, well, their Europe correspondent has gone to Ukraine and other
not going to Chile.
Zones. Yeah, they're not going to Bali to hang out underneath a cabana. Like, they know when you're a correspondent and there's conflict that, of course, you have to mitigate the risks. But, CNN, BBC, other international outlets, Reuters, Al Jazeera, they're all in Beirut.
But I don't think SBS has a plan to have a correspondent in Beirut. I think that they will rely on the Europe correspondent in Israel and also potentially stringers and partner organizations within the country to report. So stringers, sorry for anybody who doesn't know, are people, local journalists that either can capture footage themselves or they work for a wire service and you use the footage that comes from the wire service.
Yeah. Look, and the reality is we don't think simply by having kind of parachute journalists, and that idea of parachute correspondence, they fly in when things hit when things turn bad and then fly back out. They don't have the local trust or necessarily lots of local connections. And not to say that's the be-all and end-all and you're going to get excellent coverage, but what you are going to get is more first-hand accounts. What you are going to get is Lebanese people speaking for themselves.
Yeah, you will absolutely get more personal stories. And what you hopefully will get less of is what I think tends to be quite managerial reporting on the conflict, in inverted commas, which is things like the ambassador has spoken at the UN, Donald Trump has said this,
Israel denies this.
Israel has denied this. This press conference happened.
Hezbollah says this.
Exactly. So when you're actually on the ground, the focus is the people and the impact on the people. And you're right, it's not a panacea or the be-all and end-all, but it's definitely better than an endless slew of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually show some human suffering and the impact, which I really can't see I've seen much of at all in Australia, which is, again, strange given, because it's a very big story, but we have a large Lebanese population who are speaking to their relatives, who are watching overseas networks, who are seeing things on the internet. And it's like, and this is SBS, the public broadcaster. I scoured on Sunday. I was going through their social media and I just wanted to see what was and what wasn't being said. And I noted that SBS's Instagram page only had one social media asset on Lebanon from the UN. Like the UN, this person at the UN says this about Lebanon. And I just kept scrolling and scrolling. And there were multiple stories about petrol prices, Iranian girls soccer team, multiple stories. And I couldn't find anything within a week and a bit that humanizes a Lebanese civilian, that or shows the Lebanese diaspora person speaking. And this is SBS World News. This is our multicultural broadcaster.
Yeah.
But what I did, and then I went to their website because I was like, maybe it's not on Instagram, even though more people would probably get their news from social media referrals than actual website. But I did find on Monday on SBS's homepage, again, that UN chief, what he says about Lebanon. So again, a UN.
It's the managerial. This is
managerial
what I'm telling you
stuff.
about that sort of reporting.
There was also something on Wheat Bix kimchi and Ramadan sweets. So I was like, okay, nothing from a Lebanese staff member, nothing from the Lebanese diaspora.
Well,
but here, have some sweets.
I mean,
I got a bit mad.
You got a bit mad about this.
I got a bit dirty.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I reached out to SBS, obviously put all these questions to them, mainly about, their correspondent in Lebanon. But they did reply back with, a list of their Instagram coverage, because I asked them about, like, the Instagram hasn't really had a lot of coverage of Lebanese people or civilians. And one of the examples that they gave was a story that they posted on Instagram about Lebanon. And would you like to know how that story started?
Like the balcony, the Channel 9 balcony one? Was it in Israel Says? We do humanize and center Lebanese people. Here, Israel says this.
No, it started with the first example that they gave me of coverage started with the Israeli military said. And I was like, oh, man. Yeah. Which, listen, I do, like, they have covered it. There are examples on the website. They've covered the story.
Yes, and a lot of the examples they gave but predated that 10-day period that I just happened to be scrolling with before I gave up. But I mean, you did also ask them about a Lebanese staff member perhaps writing a piece or someone within the Lebanese diaspora. And, what did they say?
Yeah, well, I don't think they engaged with that question at all in terms of whether or not they've – because what's interesting to me is then whose voices are raised domestically about the issue and whether you have Lebanese people from the community or whether it's your own staff members writing reflection pieces or whatever it is. And whether they had that or they plan to have that, I don't think I got a response to that at all.
Okay.
About the op-ed situation. And it's similar at the ABC, I would say. Actually, there was when, the conflict, always inverted commas, in Iran, the war broke out, they had a reporter on the books who is Persian, whose name is Naseem Kadem. And
she's a business reporter.
Yeah, she was previously done a lot of business reporting. But when that started happening, she pivoted and started doing a lot of stories about Iran. And a lot of her stories actually featured the Iranian diaspora. She spoke to lots of Iranian people, did lots of, interviews. I think she did one with Reza Pahlavi and various other, authorities on the matter.
Yes, I know, because I also stalked ABC's Instagram page to see what all their coverage has been over the past couple of weeks. They've had a couple more stories about the ABC, but I did note they had two from Naseem about Iran, one with people in Iran who support who hate the regime, and support the Ayatollah being toppled, and then locals who also support this move. So I'd clocked both of them, but I also clocked they're both kind of congruent or adjacent with what the government is saying, and congruent or adjacent with the whims of the stated aims of the US and Israel.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say that there certainly aren't people within Iran who fucking hate the regime and want to see it fall, of course.
Sure. But I just thought, okay, that's interesting. Both times, both on the social media, both with the same messaging.
I guess my question is is there a Lebanese equivalent of that? Because I think that it is advantageous if you have the connections within the community, if you have a voice, if you're really able to own that story, especially if it's something that you want to do.
Well, you asked the ABC and they didn't engage with that question.
No, they didn't engage with that question either.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
I think so. But then again, is Lebanese a race?
Do Lebanese people exist? We don't know.
It's hard. They're still trying to figure it out.
We don't know.
I mean, they did say
we'll never know.
Yeah, hard to know. Okay, but I just want to get back to Lebanon for a moment because, as we mentioned earlier, there are other networks that are there, and it's not like, just send a parachute journalist, get him in for a few days and all the coverage will be great. No. But what I do note, particularly in this Sky News piece, is you can't help but feel, and you can tell that she feels and sees things when you get that eyewitness account. So let's take a listen.
The strike happened 2 days ago, but the building is still smoking. There's debris everywhere. You can see boxes of medicine here. There's medical records scattered everywhere, and the whole building just blown apart.
The Israeli military hit this healthcare centre in Burj Kalawai in southern Lebanon, killing 12 healthcare workers. They were doctors,
you see photos
paramedics,
of them,
and
their
nurses.
names.
You really get a sense of the massive impact here. I can feel the smoke blowing in the wind, and just look down there, a huge crater.
They were having dinner when the missile came without warning.
I heard the very loud whistle of a missile, and suddenly a very bright orange light in front of us. So we knew right away they'd hit the center. We rushed in and started searching for the mark.
Well, you try doing Israel Says, standing next to that carnage, and see how that lands. Well, it's patently fucking ridiculous.
Well, then, I mean, she still attempted to do Israel Says later on, right? Which you can just say you have to get the other perspective. But later on she goes, but Israel Says the Hezbollah was using it as a military operations center, the same kind of bullshit we heard time and time again in Gaza, so they could just blow any healthcare workers and paramedics to smithereens. But by then, by then you've seen the tangible impact. Right? So it's very different to standing on a balcony in Tel Aviv from your hotel and saying, Israel Says. You're able to, either fact check and interrogate things yourself. She does also raise the fact that they're there and being escorted by Hezbollah. She's like, Hezbollah were happy for us to be here. Hezbollah want us to see the debris. So you're able to at least cast the healthy amount of skepticism and apply it to all of the people who may have different intentions. And that's the job of a journalist. It's not to be contained on a balcony.
Yeah, it's right to do that.
And recite talking points.
Yeah.
And I want to compare that to the BBC reporting on the bombing of a house that killed several people. Because it seemed that in this instance, a flag's positioning is prefaced before you get to know the family or before you get to see like a little girl's toys and understand the full scale of the devastation.
Twisted metal and masonry in the ruins of a family home. A strike which, according to survivors, hit as relatives gathered for their iftar meal. This was clearly a Hezbollah-supporting household. There are flags, even a picture of the late Ayatollah Khomeini. But did that in itself justify this massive bombing and the killing of an extended family of 8, including several children? Israel later said there were Hezbollah operatives at the house. But a surviving uncle said that nothing could warrant such action.
So you see the flag and the picture of Khomeini before you see a little girl's piano. And I don't know, that whole question, like, does that justify, like, having a flag and supporting Hezbollah, does that justify being killed with your family while you're having a meal? Like, is that a question?
There's 2 ways to look at that, you know. One is that it's like, well, let's conduct this little thought experiment. Like, is it not? Maybe it is justified. Maybe it's not justified. All of this is reasonable to be debating in the marketplace of ideas. If it kills children, I don't know. Maybe it's justified killing children.
Off the back of a 2.5-year genocide?
All of that. But there's also another way to look at it, which is I think the reasonable person would look at that and go, that's not justified. Do you know what I mean? So it could be.
He's positing a...
It could be like the reporter's like, evidently this is not justified. Like, I'm showing the devastation and the murder of innocent people.
But he starts with the flag, the picture of the Ayatollah, and then you see some pink toys. Do you know what I mean? Like, even that, I see your argument. It could be argued both ways. But I think given we've seen the absolute disregard for civilian life daily for the past 2.5 years, not only in Gaza but in the West Bank, I'm just not sure that these curious thought experiments.
Now
I'm just like, this is not a curious thought experiment in isolation. Maybe.
And also, like, the one thing that we've become very accustomed to is just like Arab humanity being conditional, which is that if you behave in a certain way, then you're one of the good ones. And this happens domestically as well with like, you know, migrants who try and do everything right because they want to be seen as the good migrant, not the bad migrant. It's the same for Lebanese over in Lebanon, not necessarily in the diaspora, you know. Who do you support? How do you speak?
So you can only be
what words do you say?
You can be dead or compliant. There are 2.
Yeah, exactly.
There are 2 options.
Yeah.
Or silent.
Or silent. Dead, compliant, or silent.
Preferably all 3.
Because if you are anything other than that, which is somebody that is rageful or wrathful, heaven fucking forbid you have any kind of wrath within you. No. You cannot have that. You have to either be compliant, silent, or dead. And look, this is not to say that there has not been some good reporting. I need to emphasize. We did the same thing as the BBC. We put all the negative up the top and now we're like, but also this. But there has been some good reporting. Mustafa Rashwani in the SMH, he did a piece about the diaspora here.
He's Lebanese. He's based at the Parramatta Bureau of Sydney Morning Herald.
Yeah, Western Sydney, obviously the heartland of the community, at least in Sydney. I think David Crowe also, he was in Beirut and he did a piece about people and their children who had walked for hours to flee the bombing. And, you know, I thought that was a good highlight of the stories of people. I just want to, he's reporting from Beirut, just wanted to double check that. But then the thing is, like, you get into the stories and there's still lines like the Israeli Defense Force sent troops into Lebanon as just like a given.
Just to by the by. Like, just imagine we just said that. It was like, and China sent troops into Australia on Wednesday. And
they just sent troops.
The weather is a bit warm.
Yeah. You know, it's just like I'm doing this story and just, sorry. Just so you know, Israel sent troops into Lebanon. I was like, I'm sorry, is that I believe there's a word for that. Is that not an
invasion? Could you imagine if Hezbollah or the Lebanese army sent troops into Israel and it was just kind of like buried in the middle of an article? Or if they used white phosphorus?
It would never happen.
But it certainly would be covered. It would be covered comprehensively.
Yeah. And you would not say sent troops because clearly...
Sounds like a gift package. Okay, the other major newspaper whose heartland is Western Sydney, it's its focus and it's where its readership is the Daily Telegraph. So I did have a little peruse to see what the Daily Telegraph was saying about Lebanon. And when I put Lebanon into the search bar on Daily Telegraph's page, I was treated to daily war splainers. And it'd be like day 2, war splainer. And it'd be a picture of Trump. It'd have something about Iran and then usually something about Lebanon within it. And listen, I know you love your puns. You're a etch this, only Fran, explain. What else did you say?
Explore, experiment. I don't have a leg to stand on here.
We do love a pun, but I just preferably not one that kind of trivializes hundreds of people being killed, off the back of, ethnic cleansing.
Look, it didn't land for us because it's like if you're impacted by the war, like you don't want the Daily Telegraph to be war-splaining, do you?
Yeah, because it felt a lot more like warmongering than war-splaining to me because it was very much like, here's this big rocket picture and here's what Trump says and he says we're going to win. I think we do need to wrap, but these are some of a myriad of reasons why you're not getting the full story, let alone the human story about Lebanon, also the Lebanese diaspora.
I just want to say that Lebanon is a really, really special place. It's a really, really special place. And to see it, to see the carnage there from afar and just feel like you...
I don't even like the word carnage.
Absolutely. Slaughter, devastation, the injustice from so far and feeling like you have no recourse and, feeling despair and helplessness about it is a horrible feeling, and we're really, really buoyed by all of the people that reach out. I wanted to come back to that because that keeps us going.
That is very kind. 2 our yeses from me.
Can you segue that with a little bit more? Can we? Here we go.
I'm a bit sad.
I know. What a segue.
And
All
it's
right.
a yes from me.
Maybe we'll play the Benny Hill. Okay, 2 our yeses.
2 our yeses. So in staying with Lebanon, my yes goes to a couple of female freelance reporters who are based in Lebanon, and they have been reporting for a long time. They're not kind of the type that go in, and no shade on correspondence, but it's a different role when you're based there rather than fly in. One is American photojournalist Courtney Bono. She takes beautiful but also harrowing images. She actually lives in South Lebanon. And you can see some of her photographs and her work in Bloomberg, even in the Jerusalem Post. And so she also does little videos. And lately she's been doing reports from South Lebanon, the various points that are hit, places where for a long time no other Western journalist was. So I'll put a link to her in the show notes so that you too can follow her work. There's also Hala Jaber. She's a Lebanese-British journo. She's a former columnist, actually, for the Sunday Times. She lives in Lebanon. I've been following her on X for her updates on fatalities and other things. And she's got a relatively new Substack that's only been around for a few months.
Oh, okay.
And
what's it called?
I can't remember, but I'm going to, again, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Okay.
There's the one about the leaflets that I just want to spend a moment on because it obviously made me think of my husband's auntie in Lebanon who received a leaflet. She calls it the leaflets of treason. Israel begs Lebanese to betray their own. This is colonial arrogance in paper form. Flatten the infrastructure, kill civilians, including dozens of children in the last 10 days alone, displaced more than 800,000 people, then scattered treason pamphlets from the sky like junk mail, pretending it is about safety and independence. Most will burn these leaflets on sight, including the vast majority of those in the anti-Hezbollah camp. Whatever private frustrations they harbour toward the group, whatever internal debates they have about its role in politics or its ties to Iran, they are not blind. They see Israel's war crimes in Lebanon and Gaza in full view. I find her analysis and commentary great. So if you want a good read, they both get a yes from me, and I will put links so you too can follow them in the show notes.
Okay. My yes from me. Well, this is a congratulations from me, which goes to the Australian Communications and Media Authority.
The toothless tiger.
No, don't bloody give it. Don't do that. No.
Got a tooth. The toothless tiger got one tooth.
It got one tooth. So this is ACMA. This is kind of like the broadcasting, I don't know.
Regulatory body.
Yeah, regulatory body. That's exactly what it is. It has come to a very brave conclusion. Okay. After months of investigations, I tell you, ACMA has decided that any Kiss FM show hosted by Kyle and Jackie O cannot, Antoinette, are you listening to this?
Cannot wait.
Cannot air strong sexual content for the next 5 years.
Ooh.
And if they do, ARN Media could lose its radio license. This is huge. This is a big decision that ACMA has handed down because there was an investigation that found 9 breaches of the decency provisions.
In like 2 weeks or over what time?
In the code of practice.
Okay.
And including 2 episodes of a guessing game in which male and female staff members were
urinating. Is that one? Yeah, I knew it would be that one.
Recorded taking a leak, and the sounds were aired, and the host had to guess which audio belonged to which staff member. So that was a thing that aired, and it was partly that episode and another one that has led to this very brave decision. One minor issue here.
Okay.
Can you think of what the minor issue might be? Kyle and Jackie O don't exist anymore.
Yeah, they're not back on air.
No, they're not back on air.
And I don't think they will be as a duo.
No.
So it's like
these
rules that will never be applied.
It's been handed down.
We love those sorts of rules.
Oh, my God. It's been handed down 2 weeks.
And how long were they together on air for? Like 20 years?
Girl, I think their first show aired in like 2004.
Yeah, so it's like we have come to the conclusion that these ruls that we cannot enforce are very excellent rules. Thank you very much.
And we are going to hand
take
them...
a bow. ACMA take a bow.
Fucking hell, ACMA. No, look, good for ACMA. Okay, they've looked at this and they've gone that is just does not pass any test, let alone the pub test. You cannot do this on radio networks. Fine, but for God's sake, they've done it just as Kyle and Jackie O are no more, even though it does technically apply to if they get back together or even if they do shows separately on that radio network.
Only on that radio network.
Yes. Does not apply to if Kyle does his own podcast, mate? Watch this space. Watch that space.
ACMA doesn't have control over podcasts.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So yes,
slow clap. Yes,
yes, slow clap. It is 2 weeks and 22 years too late. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for us. From us, for us,
and from us.
From us.
Yes.
I'm. Yeah.
Are you okay? It was a big one.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
It was a big one, but that's okay.
And we love our Edirati, and we love that you care and you listen and you help hold space for us and you acknowledge when things are hard, and we turn up and we do it anyway.
Yes.
And so now we're in your ears twice a week. So thank you for listening and supporting Only Fran, and please show your support in whichever ways you can. Share this podcast, hit follow wherever you're listening, hit subscribe. Send us your dollars. Send us kind words.
Yeah, we'll
send us everything.
Send us everything.
Except hate mail.
Don't send us that.
Yeah,
no.
or threats.
Don't do that. Don't do that because you know it upsets me. That should be the anthem of the podcast. And on that note, we love you. See you later.
Bye.